On the Jacob Buer Show, I am so happy to have on New Palestine High School head football coach Kyle Ralph. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I appreciate you doing this. You are my weightlifting teacher, so I'm not as big as some of the guys, but I appreciate the guidance.
Yeah,
So,
I appreciate having you in class.
well, thank you for being willing to do this for a couple minutes. So, of course, you are what a football player looks like. How did you kind of get involved with football in your youth? And then how did that end up leading you played in college at UNC? And how did your playing career lead to coaching career, if you don't mind us taking through that?
Yeah. So I played pretty much every sport you could play when I was a kid. I started off when I was really young, actually playing soccer for a long, long time. I didn't play football until sixth grade. So I played soccer, played basketball, played baseball, did about everything you could possibly do. All kinds of stuff in the summer, different sports and stuff like that. Pretty much every season it would change, I would just go to the next sport. So yeah, I mean, I just stayed active. My dad coached me in a lot of those things that I did, except for soccer. And then my younger brother, actually, they let him play football before I was allowed to. And I got kind of upset by that. And I kind of got kicked out of my soccer league for hurting kids. And so they said, well, maybe your son should go play football too and stop playing soccer. And so I did. So I started playing in sixth grade and quite frankly was terrible. I was really bad. I had a lot to learn and it was definitely a struggle, but it got me to where I am today, obviously. And my parents kept, picking me up and taking me back. And I kept playing other sports through junior high and stuff. I went to St. Xavier High School then in Cincinnati and ended up doing football and track there. And I just did track honestly because it was a new school to me and a lot of my friends, one played lacrosse, one played baseball, and the rest of them all did track. And so I really just needed to keep making friends because it was a new place. And so I just decided, well, I'll just quit playing baseball because I only know one kid on the baseball team. I know like 6 or 7 doing track. So I did track, I did shot put and discus. So I just did 2 sports then throughout all of high school. And again, it was just a great experience. And went to North Carolina to play. I had scholarship opportunities from a lot of schools across the
Ohio
country.
State, Florida.
Yeah, a bunch of them.
I think there's one or two others or big ones that I'm missing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. Oklahoma was one of my finalists as well, and I had a good choice of schools.
Did you ever get to meet Michael Jordan at UNC?
He walked by me one time when we were at a basketball game. We were kind of down in the bowels of the stadium, and he had come to one of the games. He walked past. We didn't officially meet him, but walked by him at least, close enough for a big fan.
I had that experience at the Notre Dame Ohio State game with LeBron James and his son walking past me.
Yeah.
And they walked right through like the concessions area. So like they had guards with them, but it's like, why do you walk a guy that big through?
Yeah, you can almost feel their presence when it's
it's like, oh my,
that.
Especially his son, like everyone's like, are you committing here? Are you committing here? And within 10 minutes when I got back to the seat, everybody like the news that Bronny had been here, it was crazy within 10 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Little side story of probably the most famous person I've ever seen.
Yeah, you can almost feel the presence.
Yeah, it's scary
when they come in a building or a room. So yeah, so I went to UNC and had a brief stint with the Seahawks and the Panthers in the NFL, and then I just wanted to start a family and get into coaching and give back to kids the experience that I had through football and what I learned. So yeah, it led me down the road of coaching and here I am now.
And of course, the year before you came to New Palestine High School, it was not the best year.
They had a tough year.
We lose the first year to Columbus East, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Next year, run it up. What was that experience like? That team, of course, was a lot different. The kids weren't nearly as big back then. What was it like, kind of that first time for you winning?
That year
was huge for the community. I remember
it was massive. I mean. It had been a tough year in 2012, and there were a lot of things that kind of played and factored into that, which, this school and the football program has had a lot of good seasons throughout it. And everyone has some downtimes too, but that was a tough year in 2012. And, really in 13, the kids worked really hard. We had a good nucleus of players that really bought into what I brought with me. And we really just caught fire that year, honestly. And once the kids got some confidence, we just kept going. We got to 13-0 and went down to Columbus East and played the eventual state champion and kind of learned that if you're going to be successful here, it takes a lot more than just catching fire for a year. So They really had their way with us down there, but it was a good, you don't really ever want to lose, but it was probably one of those losses where it was good for me being new to the state to learn, okay, there's the benchmark. Like if you want to be elite, Columbus East is the school that you're going to have to be able to beat.
And they had a
they
good
were just so
quarterback
good.
who went, or not quarterback, running back who went to
Yeah,
Auburn.
they the running back. It went to Purdue. The running back went to Purdue, and they'd had some great players before. They had a quarterback years before that was Mr. Football as well. So great offensive line. They had a Hall of Fame coach in Bob Gaddis, who's a great guy. Him and I have become friends now. So it was a good learning experience for me too. I'm a first time head coach, and you can kind of think like, oh, well, this is easy. It's not easy, but you can think, oh, this was simple. We won 13 games, and then you go down there, and that happens to you the way it did. And it's like, oh wow, we've got a lot of work to get done. And it was good for our kids as well because they had success, which was kind of that hook that they needed to get them really addicted to the process. But then they realized, wow, that's what it's going to take. That's the hurdle that we have to get over if we want to be able to be a great team. So that was really the fuel for our whole offseason was we learned that's what's in your way. And if you want to get downtown, that's what you have to be able to beat. So, you know, we learned a lot through the loss, which I think is important. If you're going to lose, you better learn something in losing. And that really has been the fuel for our program ever since is, that moment was like, look, that's the standard of Indiana football at that level. At that time, we were in 4A. And if you want to be elite, that's what it looks like. So it was really important for us.
For sure. And then the next year, of course, you won the title.
Yeah, we beat them the next year at semi-state and then won the whole thing for the first time in school history.
How did that feel? Good.
I mean, I felt great, obviously. Again, it was one of those things where I'm probably wired a lot different than a lot of people. And in the moment, I knew we had a good team coming back for 15. Obviously, it felt incredible because those kids had just worked so amazingly hard from when we lost that game down in Columbus to the moment we came back. I always tell the story of, they got beat in 13 like that real bad. And then the 14 team came back. And the very next Monday, they were right back in the weight room wanting me to open the doors and get lifting again because they felt like they were behind. They knew they were behind. And the 14 team going into 15 did the same thing, even though we won the whole thing in 14. They all came back on Monday because they said, look, we've knocked people out 5 weeks ago. They're 5 weeks ahead of us. We need to get ready for 2015. So, the 14 team was really just a special one because those kids just worked so hard to close the gap, to put themselves in a position to be successful.
And got new talent to the spotlight.
Right. And it started right after a massive disappointment. I mean, we didn't just get beat. We got embarrassed. And that's tough. A lot of kids don't handle that stuff really well. So for them to come back and want to start their off season essentially 48 hours after they had just gotten, really blown out in the Final Four, it was like, all right, these guys might actually have what it takes to be able to do this. And then how hard are they going to continuously work? The football offseason is so extraordinarily long. Even if you wait till after the state championship's over, you're talking about December the 1st, roughly, and you don't play football until the middle of August. That's a long time to wait.
Worst case scenarios, you only get 9 games.
Right. You're going to get your 9 regular season, then you get your 1 playoff game, and that's it. So you're waiting 8.5 months for 10 opportunities. It's tough. And you can't just randomly go put on all your gear and go play football. It's not like basketball where if you can get a couple guys together, you can go play pickup basketball. You can do the travel basketball, and same thing with baseball. Football is unique. It's a very small window. So kind of wanted to see if those guys had what it took to kind of work through the first real off season, and they just did a tremendous job. And that 14 group was very, very special. And to get over the hump and win the school's first state championship football was something I'll never forget. But when the game was over, it was kind of like, all right, we're going to be really good again next year. How do we do this again? And that is kind of probably how I'm wired, a little bit different than a lot of people. I enjoyed the moment, obviously, but my brain immediately went to, we've got the talent to do this a second time. How do we do it?
And that's how, Nick Saban thinks at Alabama.
I'm not quite there, but yeah. Yeah.
A couple other questions. Of course, we put a very high scoring game against Fort Wayne Schneider. If
that was the following year.
Then a couple years after that, we have Charlie Spiegel, who moves here from Delta, and we have Kyle King, Max at Hook. We won 2 years in a row. What was it like winning back to back?
Yeah, I mean, that was
and a lot of other talented people as well.
yeah, those were two great teams again. The 15 team still has a bunch of state records that we broke, even though we lost in the championship game. But that one we had to move up to 5A because of the success factor, and then the smallest school in the division, which was us, got back downtown again, which was incredible. And we fell short in a shootout game. But then 18 and 19, we were still in 5A. We'd stayed in the success factor that long by being successful in the playoffs that we hadn't gone back to where we really belong yet. So 18 was something that I think for the community, for the staff and everything, it was a little bit of redemption for falling short back in 15 of like, we really wanted to prove that a school our size, because we had been good, we could get that job done. And we fell short in 15. And again, that's just the way that it goes sometimes. But getting the opportunity to go back downtown, a division above where we're supposed to be as the smallest school and a public school, and make it back down there and then win was a tremendous feeling, because it's really like a David and Goliath thing. We really don't have any business being there. We had great kids, talented kids. They worked hard together. We obviously have a great staff here, but when you look at the amount of resources we have and the amount of players we have on our roster, and you're going against teams twice, three times your size.
Westfield was a big one.
Yeah, and we were in the northern half of the bracket in those years as well. So that was a huge change for us too. The big challenge of 18 was we didn't get to play teams that we knew. We had to go play, Harrison and Zionsville again, who we'd had some familiar stuff with, but Lafayette Harrison, then Michigan City, and you're playing teams that you have no prior history with, and that was really cool, but it's also really difficult.
For sure.
So again, that was just a big deal. Obviously, being the small school, winning above where you're supposed to. It's the first time that it had happened in the IHSA, and then we did it twice, which was the first time anyone had ever obviously done it back to back. Really just an amazing effort by our kids and our staff. And again, two very, very special memories of two really, really good groups of kids that understood what the mission was, how to get there, and they executed it tremendously.
For sure. And then kind of just two other questions I have. One is what would you say if you could play any school in the state? And of course that's already, we're gonna be playing Westfield again this year.
Yeah, we've played a lot of them.
But if you could maybe play, or I'll just say in the region, there's some good schools in Cincinnati or Louisville or the Chicago area. If you could play kind of any, if you could make something happen, mid this season, and instead of playing Newcastle or Pendleton Heights, which is conference, what team would that be? That you think, would it be maybe Carmel, or where you went to high school in Cincinnati, or Male High School in Louisville?
Yeah, a lot of people just give me a hard time about like, when are you going to play Say Next? And I'm like, guys, that's just a totally different animal than, I played there. Coach Beck is a good friend of mine. He coached when I was there. They just do such an amazing job. And it's a 1,600 all boys school. They have more boys in the building than we have total students here at New Paltz.
And more than Cathedral.
And more depth. Yeah, significantly more than what Cathedral would be, which is the big private school here in Indianapolis. So, everyone's kind of giving me a hard time about that stuff, and it would be fun.
I was just using that one as an example.
Yeah, it may not end well for the Dragons if we played Say Next, but that would just be fun. For me personally, that would just be a fun thing. Like we've been able to build a reputation up to play a school like St. X, because their schedule is a nationwide. It's incredible. They're legitimately a national powerhouse and a contender in Ohio every year. So for me personally, that would just be something neat, for the program. I think what we've done here in the last couple of years, and since I've been here, of challenging our kids with big challenges every year. A school of, we just had 1,200 kids now, but we've played Center Grove twice. We're going to play Westfield for the second time again this year. We're playing Decatur Central.
We're 3-0 against 6A.
Right, and we haven't lost to a 6A school, but we're challenging our kids to step up to an extremely high level, and we're not backing away from any challenges. We're not making our schedule easier, and we're not trying to just find wins. We're out there to push our kids to a level that we want our program to be. Whether our enrollment's near those or not, it doesn't matter. We've played anybody that essentially has asked to play or wants to play. So, the challenges have been great, and I'm really proud of that. For a lot of schools our size to take on some of the schools that we've had to take on, or we've chosen to take on in the regular season and sign a contract to play them. Again, I just proves that we're not out there just looking for easy W's and teams that we can beat. we want to push our kids to the absolute maximum level. So whatever that would look like, it doesn't matter, me personally, and for the program, we just want to play the best teams we can find. But I think a lot of people have always been like, you think we can beat St. X where you're from? Like, what do you think? And it's like, again, guys, it's a very different level of
Injuries,
football.
there's a million things
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
Another thing I'll just say, real quick, like teams like Westfield or hard teams like that, or having to play Cathedral or Center Grove. As a student who's been here the last 4 years, it is fun to be in the student section at those games more
Yeah.
than some of the other games. So like
Yeah.
the Westfield game, the Cater Central, which was really fun this
Yeah.
past year, it's fun to be in a student section, seeing the competition.
Yeah, and our community gets excited for that stuff. They want to see us be able to see if we can compete with those places.
And we did,
Yeah.
and we have in the past. And, football is football. So
Right.
who knows what the future holds, but it's fun for the community to see,
Absolutely.
have Westfield come down from Hamilton County, like this past year. So,
Yep.
and then kind of my last question is, and this isn't just for this community, but what advice would you kind of have for a young kid who wants to get involved in football? And I'm not saying just here. I know we of course have a good feeder program.
Yeah, we do. Very
But
good.
say you're a kid living in Marion, Indiana,
Mhm.
if anyone's listening from Marion, Indiana, thank you.
Yeah.
Community that's maybe not as known for football. What advice would you have? Or a kid who lives in Shelbyville, maybe even, what advice would you kind of have for them to get involved in football?
Yeah, we're really lucky. The NPCFL here is tremendous. It was one of the big attractions for me when I looked at this job. Now, my wife's from New Pal originally, so I knew some of the stuff, but we're really lucky. We have a great youth league here, and it's getting better every year. And we've got a great board around that, and the community involvement is amazing. So we're very fortunate in that. But I think what makes it special is parents who understand that we're in this to develop their kids, and it's not just about fundamentals and blocking and tackling. You're there to develop their mindset and their attitude and who they are as a young person, as much as you are about playing the game of football. And to me, that's really key because football's hard. And that's really the advice I would give to a kid is this sport is difficult. There are very few sports on this planet where you are going to get physically hit.
Destroyed.
Right. You're going to get physically hit. And the purpose of the game is to knock someone on the ground and try to not be knocked on the ground. And there aren't a lot of sports out there like that exist. I mean, rugby, and that's not super common in the United States. I mean, you don't find a lot of sports where the goal is to physically punish somebody.
Yeah.
So, it's hard. And there's a lot of stuff, especially with, just youth sports in general, where some kids mature at an accelerated rate and they dominate early on. And it's hard now for kids to understand that, look, this is a long process where the instant gratification of being really good right now and scoring a bunch of touchdowns and looking like it's the NFL, it's not a reality, right? You have to go through a growth process and a learning process. And then the mental side of this is not fun sometimes. And that's tough because football is again, it's a physically demanding sport, and you've got to be able to get yourself back up and keep trying. And I think for a lot of parents, that's hard to watch when their kids struggle. I think for a lot of kids, it's hard to get back up when you're struggling. My advice to all the kids I've coached in the youth league and even my high school players here, you're not going to always win. And that's not just games, that's rep to rep. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose a lot. How you respond to losing, how you decide to attack that is what really makes you who you are as a player and a person. And I've coached in the NPCFL with our youth kids here. My son did 6 years there. And then I actually coached my nephew's team this year. But to every team I've coached and been involved with, that's always the message. And sometimes it's as simple as like when they get knocked on the ground, I will physically go over there and I will help them get up and pick them up. And hey, you okay? I'm fine. Okay, so you're not hurt, you're not injured. We're going to try it again. And you keep working at it, and you keep trying it, and you see those little steps, and they start to believe in themselves, and they start to again enjoy that process of I'm becoming a better player. And then they get more confident. And then that's where the mental part of it comes in, where they start to believe in themselves a little bit. And then they really start to enjoy the sport. So again, football's hard and it gets a bad rap a lot of times, which is really unfortunate. But to me, if you can get parents to understand that this, again, it's a long process of learning here, that it's not about how many touchdowns Johnny or Jimmy scored when they were in the first and second grade. It's about, can they learn? Can they be a team player? Can they be coachable? Can they be part of something bigger than themselves? And they buy into that part of the process. You keep picking them up, you keep dusting them off, you keep positively encouraging them to come back to the practices and keep trying. They're going to be fine. Because again, it's not basketball and where you can just go pick a ball up and go shoot some shots outside by yourself. I played basketball a lot when I was a kid, and there's an easy element where I can go pick a ball up and go shoot outside my driveway. Football's not that, and that makes it really, really difficult to do. So you're constantly in physical competition, and that's difficult. So again, getting yourself back up and trying and seeing those little steps build is, I think, what makes it great, because the payoff at the end can be pretty special.
For sure. And then two last kind of, as I like to say, fireball or speed questions.
Oh, here we go.
Favorite musician?
Oh boy.
Alive.
Alive. Okay. And that's a great one.
It's okay if you don't say Taylor Swift.
No, it's okay. No, she's good though. I just listen to so many different things. Man, oh man. I don't know anything real. I'm country music. I think right now I'm really
Jason Aldean.
That's okay. I mean, I don't know. Anything country right now is pretty good, honestly. I've definitely enjoyed some of the older stuff too, but some, country music in general right now, I think is what I don't know if I really have a favorite musician. And I'm not a concert guy either. I don't like, my wife doesn't like that part about me. I don't like going to concerts and stuff. So if there was someone they had a concert in Indy, I wouldn't just be like dying to get a ticket. I wouldn't want to go at all. So I just listen to lots of different stuff. I probably don't really have a favorite, to be honest.
Interesting. And then the last question is, what team do you think probably has the best chance of winning it all in the Super Bowl this year? If you had to pick an NFL team.
Jeez.
I'll leave college out of it since there's college recruiters and I want to respect
Yeah, that's
that.
okay. Yeah, we've got a couple really big recruits right now, so I don't want to upset somebody. Yeah.
Let's see. NFL question though. No one's going from New Pal to
Right.
NFL next
Well,
year.
we've got Matt Canada, who's the O coordinator at the Steelers, who's a New Pal grad,
Yep.
has become a very good friend of mine, a good mentor to me, and I think they had a tremendous draft last week. I thought the Steelers, again, I'm not an NFL coach or some executive, but I thought they drafted extremely well. And they've got some great pieces. The young quarterback, the Pickett kid's really good. I mean, are they a Super Bowl contender? That's a tough division. You've obviously got the Bengals, who have been deep now 2 years in a row. So that's going to be really hard to do. But I'm a Steelers fan because of him. I guess I'll be a homer though. I grew up as a Dolphins fan. I was a huge Dan Marino fan. Yeah, you thought I was gonna say Colts because of the homer part, but I'm from Cincinnati, but I grew up a Dolphins fan because of Dan Marino. I've always been a Dolphins fan. I would love to see them just be good and make a run. But again, you've got Buffalo pretty much just sitting there in your way. You've had the Patriots in your way for an eternity. So I'm not really sure if they can get it done or not, but I would love to see the Dolphins do it.
Steelers.
Realistically, I think this might be the Bills' year to break through.
Wow.
They're really good. Yeah. So I would love to see the Steelers get in there and Coach Canada get himself a nice ring. Dolphins just because they're my team, but I do like the Bills a lot. I think this might be the Bills' year to possibly break through and get it done.
Well, awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on the Jacob Beer Show, and best of luck this upcoming season.
Thank you.